Adelman, who is an event security expert. Steve, we've of course talked to you before about events that we have here in Arizona, but as you watch this video, as we are on television, what are the first thoughts that come to mind?
Well, the first thought is, I've been there. I lived in Massachusetts, in Boston, for 15 years. I know exactly where all this is happening, and this is very scary stuff. This is a very highly populated area. It's called Patriots Day in Massachusetts. It's actually a state holiday, and most people who can have taken the day off from work. This is the area very close to where Fenway Park is. The Red Sox play their 11:05 a.m. Patriots Day game so that people can go to Fenway, enjoy the baseball game, and then come out of the ballpark, walk just a few short blocks, and then catch the end of the marathon as the early finishers are coming in. So there is an enormous number of people in this rather confined area. This is bad news.
Okay, and we're just hearing off of Twitter again, waiting to confirm otherwise, but Boston police saying that 3 people have died in the Boston Marathon explosions. Steve, when we've talked to you most recently about like the Colorado theater movie shooting and what happens from here on out. We're looking at these live pictures of these emergency responders trying to get the injured to the hospitals. But talk about the early stages after a series of explosions happens like this, potentially deadly. Again, that's what we're hearing from police at this point. But what happens? How can you be sure that other bombs have not been set to go off? And, you know, how do you cordon off an area? How do you know what's a big enough area to protect people from?
Well, that's the job of law enforcement. So let's first clarify who you is. In this case, you is the state and federal officials, because the Boston Marathon is a federal level security event. So there is national security available here in Boston in the images that we're all looking at. So what they'll first do is cordon off the area where the 2 explosions were experienced in the most immediate fashion. So they want to make sure there's nothing more right in that same area. Then what they'll do is expand the circumference of that area to a wider and wider area so that they can make sure there's nothing more in the same general vicinity. So they work from the specific outwards to the general, and they'll basically check the entire area. And you can see in this image that we're all looking at on the screen right now, there's nobody on, that's probably Boylston Street, there's nobody there because that area has been completely secured. And they'll
I don't think we lost you there, Steve, or at least I'm hoping not. But I want to ask you, the sad truth of this is that you can, and it looks like we have a free shot right now of the explosion. You can see the glow of the flames there and the smoke before it really kicked up and covered the street. But the sad truth here is that you really can't secure an event of this magnitude to the level that would prevent something like this from happening. Is that correct?
Yes, of course it is correct. The whole point of an event like this is it's a civic treasure. The Boston Marathon has been going on for decades and decades and is an essential part of the fabric of Massachusetts and New England, you know, and it's an international event. The whole idea of it is that it's open and accessible. You know, I used to pull a lawn chair up along Commonwealth Avenue and watch the runners as they climbed Heartbreak Hill. There's no security there. People are just congregating along the streets. That's why it exists.
And Steve, we're getting the first images off of Twitter, the power of social media, and us being able to bring it to you live right now. Some of the first images from Boston where you can actually see a fiery explosion there down at the bottom of your screen. And we were hearing earlier reports that maybe some of these explosive devices that authorities are looking at, some trash cans in that park area. What do you make of that? Because we've talked before about how you have beat cops looking for suspicious people. Sometimes you have canines sniffing through the area, but the possibility that these could have been stashed in some trash cans.
I guess I would caution you and our viewers not to rush to judgment about where the explosions came from. That's all going to shake out relatively quickly, although certainly not as quickly as any of us would like to know. But the exact source of the explosions, that's what law enforcement is looking into right now. So, the immediate issue is to determine how many people were seriously hurt, God forbid, killed. Then we'll learn more about the source of the explosion and the exact mechanism of the explosion, and then law enforcement will continue its investigative efforts to figure out who did this, which,
right.
If this follows the usual pattern, will take days before they know anything that they're willing to tell the media. So I guess I would caution all of us not to speculate beyond what the images seem to suggest to all of us, which is there were a couple of explosions in a very populated area, and it's very hard to secure an area that open. I mean, these are urban streets.
Well, wise words, Steve, and we really appreciate your point of view, not only from formerly living in that area, but also a security expert. We'll probably be checking back with you. A couple more quick things before